So I think everything starts with a decision, and until you make a decision, nothing is going to change. And I think the challenge for a lot of people is that they give their power away and they wait on someone else to come and do it for it. So it's like you're waiting on God, you're waiting on your husband, you're waiting on the government, you're waiting on everybody but you. And one of the things that I say to my clients all the time is that God does for us what we can't, not what we won't. And so it's important that if I want to be free financially, that I make a decision and then I begin to do the work, even if I have to go by myself, even if I have to sit in rooms where I don't know what the heck they're talking about, I have to make a decision. That's what I'd say.
So, Love, I'm gonna direct this one to you. With so many women settling due to the fear of loneliness, I know I've been there. How do you find peace with singlehood, especially in a pandemic where you're already by yourself? How are women able to cope with that?
Loneliness can be very serious. They say that loneliness is can be as deadly as cigarette smoke. And so, we are relational creatures, so we do want to connect with people and we do want to reach out. But one of the things that we have to do is, in order to successfully be in a relationship, we have to successfully be able to be in a relationship with ourselves. And so we can't depend on others as a distraction for not being with ourselves. We also have to make sure that we get rid of any stigmas related to singleness. And that's very, very important. We have to realize that singleness is not a disease. Singleness is not a sign that you're not wanted. Singleness is not a validation that you're special. I mean, like if somebody chose you. So none of that stuff is true. You have to make sure that none of those messages are actually penetrating in your spirit, and that people don't necessarily say, I'll be happy if I'm coupled. But you know what they say? I'll be happier. The happier is the deception. The happiness should happen on the inside of you. And 50%, they say, can anybody hear that? 50% of that happens a lot of times, they say, from epigenetics, the DNA. There is 40% that comes from what's happening around you, that's happening inside of you that you need to be healed from, traumas and things. And 10% is external. So if you're not unhappy during this pandemic, 10% of it is the COVID-19 and the isolation, but you should go inside first to heal yourself. And you should look at the history of yourself and heal that, and then look at outside.
What does a relationship with myself look like, ma'am?
That's a very good question. The relationship with yourself is this. The first thing, act of self-love, is that you get to know who you are. And we evolve. I'm not my 20-some-year-old self. So if I still think that at the point in which I had children, everything in my whole world shifted. My perspective on politics, my perspective on schools, my perspective on everything shifted when I had children, because now I had another intense love to consider, intense responsibility to consider. At the point of sickness, you change. At the point of crisis, you can change. You gotta stay knowing who you are so that you will know what you want. If you don't know what you want, you will have, if you haven't even found yourself since a childhood, the wounded child will literally be the loudest voice in your ear directing your relationships. So you gotta know who is talking to you. Is it pre-marriage talking to you? Or is it single girl talking to you? Or is it who you have become right now? But do you even know that? You got to know who you are. That's an act of self-love. That might require you taking some time away. It should. That might require you sitting in a seat in therapy. It should. Meditation, reflecting, getting some me time. All of that is acts of self-love. Don't be afraid of who you are. The only thing that's keeping you afraid to be with you is because you're afraid what you're going to say to you about you.
Oh, that's good. Woo! Listen, you got to know your history. You got to know yourself. That's good. Thank you, Dr. Love. So,
I just also wanted to add, because I think I want to acknowledge, for the single women who are listening, the single women who would like to be married, I want to acknowledge that everybody on this panel and Lady Locke we're all married. And I know single folks sometimes get tired of hearing us married folks talk about how they should be okay being single. So I just want to acknowledge that because I think it's important. And also that as women advance in age, that there is a ambiguous grief that can be associated with that, because people begin to mourn what they thought their life would be like.
That's true.
And that ambiguous grief is real. You know, you may have children, but some single women who don't have children may not have planned to have children until they were married. So they may not only be grieving a marriage relationship, but they may also be grieving the children that they thought they would have. And when you grieve the absence of a future that you had imagined for yourself, it can be very painful. So I don't want to overlook the fact that in getting to a place of contentment and singleness may involve intentionally walking through that grief.
Yes.
And that can really undermine our mental health. You may be able to do it alone just by me labeling it grief today. That may help some people, but you may need to do it with a friend or with a minister or with a therapist. But it's real. And I don't want us to gloss over that the grief is a part of that. I encourage Christian women to have an if I never plan about all kinds of things in life. I'm going to believe God to the end, but also if I never get married, if I never have a child, if I never this, whatever, if I never get the career that I wanted, or if I never, as my grandmother used to say, I'm going to serve him anyway. So what would your if I never look like? What would you start doing right now if you had a word for sure from God that you were never going to get married? After you finish being mad with him, what would you do with your life? What would you change? Where would you live? Would you adopt a child? Would you buy a house? Would you move to France? Whatever you would do that. But some people are too afraid to make an if I never plan. And so they're living in this limbo and this grief. So grieve, plan, and pray, and trust God to bring you through to the absolute best life that you could have imagined.
Amen. Amen.
I'd like to add something to that too. And so I think that part of grieving then allows me, if I'm willing to let go of what I thought I could have, I can embrace what's in front of me. And so if I'm willing to say, I thought I would be married at 30, but I'm not. I thought I would have kids by 32, but I didn't. Then what can I see in front of me? Because one of the things that I see sometimes, this may not be the place to say it, but we out here, so I'm gonna say it, right? Is that I see a lot of times that Black women are holding on to ideals of Black men loving them. And there are other men who are willing to love them. When my husband and I went to Jamaica, I was the only Black woman on the resort with a Black man. The rest of them women was with everything you could think of: Asian, Hispanic, Italian, European. And all I'm saying is that I think it's possible for you to love Black men without giving up your future, waiting on a Black man to pick you.
That's a whole word.
Yes, I have to say something about that too. You know what I deal with is people who are afraid to dream again, because divorce can make you feel like I've dreamed about this dream all my life and now it ended like this. Because the truth of the matter is, as married women, I think that what happens is, like Dr. Anita said, we will say, you know, it's okay to be single, but we're married. But married people are trying to get out of marriage for the same reason you trying to get in. You say, oh, I want somebody who I can wake up to, who will love me every day. A lot of married people wish they had that too. I want somebody who is going to be there with me and understand me. A lot of married people want that too. And so when they end up in a divorce situation, what you will find is they are afraid to go back and dream again. Even though God promises the desires of your heart and things like that, they're afraid to go back in and dream. And so you can grieve, but after the grieving process, don't lay yourself in the grave that was dug. You gotta live again.
Oh, that was a nice.
You gotta grieve. You gotta get back up.
Grieve.
Can somebody put that in the chat?
Listen, as my uncle used to say, it's tight, but it's right. You gotta grieve.
Wait, what was the phrase? The grave in the, wait a minute.
Again,
don't lay yourself in the grave that was dug.
Out of there.
Shout out.
Listen.
Since we're talking about this, let's talk about how church has set Black women up, particularly not to be able to find people today. Let's talk about that. I got 5 kids, and I say this to my
Talk
girls
about it.
all the time.
It's so true.
You don't want to date Deacon Jones. Your man probably ain't at the museum, because the reality of it is our husbands are only at the museum because we made them go. You probably not gonna find a man there. You better go where men are. Because here's the thing that's fascinating to me about how Black women in the church have been programmed. You're not supposed to date anybody at church. You're not supposed to date anybody you work with. If the guy at Starbucks talk to you, if the guy at the gas station talk to you, where the heck are you going to find a man? You better get out here to these AAU games. And when you sitting in a bar someplace, have to go there, because you ought not be in no bar for no sports right now. But when you sitting in there and somebody smile at you, smile back.
Come on.
Go outside.
Come on and say hello, honey, because I introduced myself.
Come on.
You all, I am so glad we are keeping it real here, but let's go back to the Bible days. The truth of the matter is this. The truth of the matter, they didn't have this single phenomenon in the Bible. Why? Because they were obligated. There was an obligation for marriage. And just like Ruth, when we tell the story of Ruth, and Naomi said, go up there, do whatever he tell you to do. Why? Because she was not a child bride. Those child brides were married off by the time they were 12 years old. When they had they would become engaged. Their family had a contract on them. They did all of that. If they were put out, which God says, I hate it, because y'all put these girls out and y'all doing them wrong. And so they put them out and they out there. If the husband didn't put them out and he died, it wasn't like, oh, please, somebody pick me. You got a brother? Oh, okay, that's your wife. Oh, yeah, that's going to be your wife too. And by the way, the law says this. If in fact you decide, no, I'm not going to take her as your wife, let your name be blotted out, and you are called what's your name? The name meant huge things back then. Yeah. So now what you are, you ain't even got a name. Because why? Because you didn't fulfill your duty to marry and keep a legacy going. So the women had that out there, and so it wasn't the same thing. If Ruth, when she went up there and got connected to Boaz, when she went there, what ended up happening is Boaz, this is saying, hey, I'm your next of kin. And if she wasn't a child anymore, she's 40, he was 80. And so y'all 80, we all who's seeking your Boaz, be open-minded. So now as she goes up there and he did take advantage of her, if he had, she would have been married, period. She didn't need a marriage license. Ooh. But he said this is where the honor came in, is he said, I'm not your next of kin. There's a next of kin closer than me. We need to go check on him first. He went and he said, if he don't want to marry you, I will. The guy said, I'm old. I ain't even trying to marry somebody else. He went on, made his, and did what he was supposed to do. And then he ended up, he said, I don't want her. Boaz said, I'll take her. He was honorable, and he did fulfill what God's command. Right now, the dilemma that we're dealing with is this. And I'm going to say this. There are some great super single moms who are raising amazing sons. But then there are some who are raising sons who do not see marriage, don't see themselves in marriage, don't see what relationship looks like in a marriage. And nobody's encouraging them to marry, because some of them have been married to their mother all their life. And so what happens is now, and now they've been married and been my little man all their life, and they ain't trying to be married the second half of their life, because first of all, your mother's going to treat your wife like a mistress. I apologize for being so real, you all.
No.
We gotta deal with this single stuff. We gotta deal with the root of it. We just talking about the surface of it. We're not dealing with the root of this thing.
Mm.
The question,
Jesus.
do we in the church traditionally, do we view relationship like we do therapy? So we come to God and we feel like, there for some time, for a period of time up until recently, we've been talking about faith and strategies and therapists and things of that nature. But traditionally it was bless oil and get laid hands on. And so do we do that with relationship also, such that if my husband has to be in the church, when that man come walking through the door, that's him and everybody's fighting over the same? Do we have that traditional?
We really do.
Oh,
We really do.
absolutely. And it's utter foolishness. It's just utter foolishness. Listen,
It sure
I love my
is.
husband. We've been married, for 26 years. And so when people go, I want a husband like Pastor Edwin, girl, you don't know what Pastor Edwin was when we started. You better make sure you want this. You looking at what we grew up and became, baby. You 25 thinking you go get this. Baby, that ain't how this thing works. And I think that, let me say this too. I think women give other women horrible advice about getting a man. I think women, now let me say this contextually. I didn't always have a lot of women friends. I had dudes for friends. And so I understand that what girls say and what guys say is not the same conversation. And so women are out there still having conversations like, ooh, girl, make sure you can cook. They got DoorDash. You don't really care if you can cook. Can you help me do something? Can you go somewhere with me? I think that the message that we are giving women is antiquated towards them. There has been a shift, and we're not preparing them to shift. And so now these women have made their lives so narrow. They only go to church where they don't want Deacon Jones. They go to work where Tommy can't talk to them because he's just the mailroom guy. They're afraid of the guy at Starbucks. They're afraid at the gas station. And they're saying, God, where am I going to get a man? Child, you best to get where the men is, okay? Where the men, I say this all the time. I'm a 48-year-old woman with 5 kids and I'm a little bit overweight. But if I got divorced right now, I can give me a man because I know where men are. Okay? I wouldn't be in church.
My resale value good. Come on.
I'm going, this guy at our church used to say men's and mans. I'm going where the men's and mans are. You know where 48-year-old men are on Saturdays? They at AAU basketball tournaments because their kids is playing. You know who's going to be up in there acting like they like basketball? Me. Now you say you don't have faith. I got enough faith to go to an AAU tournament and find my second husband is what I would have.
Hey,
you know what?
You have faith and work, baby. Faith and
the
work.
same faith that Ruth did. Go up there, smell good, get them drunk. We don't want to tell the truth. If we can read the scripture. You want me to read it?
Sure. And then I'll say this. Don't confuse love again. If you look at how Jesus deals with the woman with 5 husbands, he doesn't say to her, you messed up too many times, don't love again. He actually says, let me heal you so when you love again next time, it'll be better. Some of you feel like because you love poorly early. Because again, as Love says, who you are at 26 isn't who you are at 46. You don't have to hold yourself hostage anymore because you had 3 kids with 3 baby daddies. Baby, you become a new woman. Move on. Love again.
Yes.
But heal yourself so when you show up, you don't think James is Tommy from the past. You can deal with James based on who James is.
Yes, so true.
Heal yourself.
Yes. And please stop believing it. When we talk about the church isn't preparing women, I think the church is also tearing women down with the explanations that they're giving for their singleness. You know, that you lose some weight, gain some weight. You wearing too much makeup, you aren't wearing enough makeup. You're dancing, you're not, and this is my favorite one. You need to let God heal you so he can send you somebody. Let me tell you something. I was a crazy, crazy mess when my husband married me. But guess what? I still got a good man. I wasn't perfect. I had a lot of things to do. And my husband loving me like Jesus has so much to do with healing me. He was a tool in God's hands to heal me. So please stop telling women it's their fault that they're single because of what's wrong with them. That you're too broken. Like Sean said, that you had the 3 children with the 3 daddies, or that somehow you have disqualified yourself. And I understand when you're desperately searching for a reason why something painful is happening, then it's like, well, who do I blame? Do I blame God? Do I blame myself? You know what? Don't worry about the blame game. That is not where we need to be. And it's not, because it's like, well, God is saving me for somebody special. We think that sounds nice, but it doesn't, because when 20 years pass, then I'm mad at God because I thought he was saving me for somebody special. Why would God treat me like this? He is not sitting up there in heaven with your husband behind his back, waiting for you to hit the right point in your life or you to behave well enough to now give it to you. He is a good father. I'm a parent. I would never do that to my children. There are so many reasons why marriage is hard in this world. And so we're giving you ways to open your mind. Like Sean said, he ain't necessarily got to be black, sis, black men, whatever. There's so many reasons in this world why people may or may not have the opportunity to get married, but you don't have to make that something wrong with you, and you don't have to make it something God is doing
to you. Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like that.
Open yourself for love.
You don't need a reason. Just
open yourself for love and to be loved well. Open yourself for love. A lot of people, you're injured, you've had bad counseling, you've had a lot of that garbage that you over here preparing yourself. I say this all the time. When I got married, I could cook spaghetti, cereal, and turkey sandwiches. And you don't even got to cook cereal, okay? That's all I could cook.
That's 2 things more than me.
Right.
Come on.
And I think that, and I say all the time, most of us, if we tell the truth behind the scenes, what we're telling women it takes to get married ain't what none of us did. We didn't do that. That's not what we did.
None of
That's so true. On a checklist. We ain't even done that stuff.
That's so true.
So what I would say is be open for love, and don't knock a man out because he may not come in your ideal package, because he may not physically look like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have physical attraction, because as best I can tell, ain't gonna be no sex in heaven. You ought to get it in here. So I think it ought to be physical attraction. But I'm saying to you, if all you have dated is tall and light skin, and tall and light skin keep breaking you, maybe you better go with some brown skin. Like
maybe
don't tie to a type
that
you miss the love.
So
the right love, baby, it'll change your whole life. The right love, somebody love you well, and as Dr. Phillips said, love you all about your crazy. You didn't even know how crazy you were until you start being loved well. And you deserve, you deserve to be loved well.
Yes,
you are worthy of being loved well.
But you know what happens? This is what I find a lot of times. People are they learn how to have relationships from their core relationships, like their mothers and fathers and things like that. When they have had series of rejection sometime from fathers and mothers and things like that, they really don't even know how to bond in a relationship healthily. And so the person that's chasing them, it feels so uncomfortable to have somebody pursuing you and loving you. This could be the guy from 8th grade who always loved you, but you will seek the person who is unattainable and that person who is not even thinking about you and will use you. And but the one that's really right there, if you stop and pause, it's like, he's been loving you all along, and he's not bad looking, but he's blue collar. He ain't the power guy that you was thinking about. And so your mind says, we're going to do this, and we're going to be Jay-Z and Beyonce. We're going to do all. No, what about just, it can be some good guys that are not high profile that you have not considered. Why? Because some of it is you really haven't stopped to say, can I receive love? It's not just about giving. It's also about the ability to receive. Yesterday, literally, the woman just cried on the phone. She said, I must admit, I don't know how to receive love. I don't know how to do that. And so they will self-sabotage it when it's coming. They will tell you it's not good because your shoes are square toes and I like this kind of anything to get away and run away from something that looks like it might be too good, because they don't want to invest and have the rug pulled out from under them and be hurt again. So you have to know all of these dynamics when it comes to relationship. Make sure that you are not running from love. You are not self-sabotaging love, because you can be loved, but you have to also be able to receive it. And so
that's good. That's
so
good.
good.
I like to honor time, and I like to be timely. I know we said till 3:00, and I know you all have schedules, and I truly appreciate your time. So we'll take one more question, and we'll end this day, this beautiful day.
So I'm going to post this to everyone. The church has somewhat shunned therapy for so many. So how do you congregate towards therapy versus explaining the difference between that versus spiritual guidance? Some people may look at therapy as, if I need therapy, then that means I don't have faith in God, I don't believe in God, and so they run from it. How do you guide people back towards the fact that therapy doesn't necessarily mean you're running or not taking God at His word?
So I think Dr. Phillips
I
think you ought to close this, because this is your
yeah, I
Let
think
us
so too.
talk, and then you just close it, right? Because this is what you do.
Okay.
So I just think, as a pastor, I think that we have to understand that God has so many ways to heal people. And that can be a supernatural touch in the altar. It can be in a prayer closet. But going to therapy is actually proof that I have faith. It is proof that I believe something better is on the other side, and I don't know how to get there. So going to therapy doesn't mean you don't have faith. You go to therapy because you have faith, because you believe that what you have is what God wants for you. And I'm tapping out experts.
I'll say this, what I tell people all the time. The Bible says, truly, he was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we were healed. If you look at that, if he was bruised for our iniquities, the iniquities is what? The sins of the fathers, the things that are on our epigenetics and things like that. God was concerned about every piece of us. And and you can see that in the Bible. The cross entailed not just skip all the way to the end, and by his stripes we were healed, because it talks about our peace right there. That's depression and any other mental health anxieties. It talks about our epigenetics. It talks about our DNA. It talks about the things that are happening right now. The bruises are the things on the inside that you can't necessarily see. And so what we have to do is realize that Jesus paid a whole price for a whole people, and not just a piece of a people. He was concerned about every part of us that he placed inside of us to affect our ultimate life assignment. Dr. Anita, go, take it.
All right, I'll say a couple of things. One, I know we're here with mostly Black women, and Black people are action-oriented people. If there's something going on, we want to do something, take care of it, move on. And so one of the reasons, just as Black people, that I think we don't care for therapy as much is because we believe that talking isn't doing anything. So it's like, well, I'm gonna go there and just talk about it, because we're action people. So, as we like, don't talk about it, be about it, So a lot of times it's like, if there's nothing I can do, I can't do anything about what happened in the past. I can't do anything about the fact that I was sexually abused. I can't do anything about the fact that my father left me. And we take that value and say, then I don't need to go to therapy, because at therapy, I'm just talking. But actually, that's not exactly what's happening in therapy. It's not like going to just chat with a friend. You are talking with someone who understands how people break. See, your identity is unique. Your fingerprints are unique, but the way that you break is not unique. We all break in patterned ways. And as therapists, we went to school, and then we spent hours studying and being supervised and passing tests and trained to know how people break. And so sometimes I'll have a client come to me and give me their story in 10 minutes. And I'm just like, okay, so is this, and this happening? Yeah. And they think I'm prophetic. Baby, I'm not prophetic. I just know how people break. Now, I mean, I am prophetic, but not in that moment, because I know how people break, because that's what we've studied. And so don't underestimate therapy as just a place you go to talk. Therapy is taking action. There is something that you can do to stop the echo of your past from continuing to reverberate into your future. And therapists can help you do that. So it's not just talking. So that's the first thing I'll say to us as Black women. Second of all, it doesn't say, it doesn't mean that you don't have faith, just like you taking an Excedrin doesn't mean that you don't have faith. So I'm going to challenge you this. Any medication, treatment, intervention that you're willing to do for physical symptoms, you should be willing to do the same thing for mental and emotional symptoms. So if it is not a lack of faith for you to take the Excedrin that's in your purse right now, the NyQuil that help you go to sleep tonight, you hear what I'm saying? If that is not a hit on your faith, then neither is talking to a therapist. And so I need you to get honest with yourself about why you see it as different. And if you see it as different because you feel like that means you're weak, well, then, you should be stronger about that headache, sis, right? God heals headaches and cancer. I know people who have been miraculously healed by cancer. I know people who have had limbs grow out, but that didn't mean that they weren't believing God. And so I challenge you to ask yourself, why do I feel differently about getting help in this area than I do when it has something to do with my body? Third, I know it's scary. Therapy's scary. I get it. Because nobody wants to feel like their mind and their emotions are lying to them, or that somehow they can't trust themselves on the inside. Like, that's unnerving. I get that. But we don't allow fear to direct any of our decisions. Now, do we? So I just want you to be honest with yourself about why you don't like it, because fear is never a good reason. And it is not, they are not the same thing. You're not exchanging prayer for therapy. I got my shirt on. Prayer is a weapon. Therapy is a strategy. They're not in the same category. And I say this for that reason, because too often people in my field do push it like they're equal options. And they're not. You can, I want Jesus and a therapist. That's like saying Jesus or a therapist. No, baby, they're not equal options. Nothing will ever rise to the power of God in your life. But it doesn't make sense for you to be in a battle that's harder than it needs to be, baby. This is a war in your members. Romans chapter 7 says what? Paul goes and says, I have God in my mind. With my mind, I serve the law of Christ. But there's another law in my member warring against the law in my mind. That word member means body part. That means his body was fighting his mind. Your brain is a part of your body, and it's fighting his mind. And Paul said, it goes back. He said, sometimes I am taken captive. That meant sometimes his body beat his mind. Your brain and your mind are not the same thing. So you need to drop your pride that you can outthink everything in your life, because you can't. Your mind is not that strong. Paul said it took me captive. If Paul got taken captive, he wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. Baddest man out there after Jesus, Paul. Like, that's how I feel about Paul. He was a beast. And he said, it takes me captive. Oh, wretched man that I am. Oh, this body of death. He was so frustrated with the fact that sometimes his mind that was committed to the law of Christ lost in a battle with his body. He admits that it's true. He laments that it's true. But then in Romans 8:1, he goes on to say, but even when that's happening, there is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. When Paul said that, he was coming off of Romans 7. He was talking about that internal battle that he sometimes lost, and he didn't let himself be condemned when he lost. So here's the key. Therapists understand the law in your member. And if you come and see me, I will make that law weaker. If you do the work with me, we can weaken the law in your member. So now in the battle between your mind and your member, you have a leg up, because we have not only gotten God in our mind, but we have weakened our enemy. And that increases our chances of winning. And who doesn't want to increase their chances of winning? So this is about winning. This is about winning. Prayer is a weapon, but therapy is one of the many strategies that can weaken the law in your member. Exercise can weaken it. Nutrition can weaken it. A good cry can weaken it. I know y'all can talk about mine, and I can talk about feelings. You don't like that. But guess what? That's what's going on underneath. And so when we deal with those issues, and then that law in our member, that temperature comes down, we are able to win the war more often. So this is about winning, baby, by any means necessary. Don't lose that strategy on the table.
By any means necessary.
That was good.
Listen.
Any means necessary.
I appreciate you all for, listen, whoever's in the chat, can you all just give the trade hands or something for these phenomenal women who poured into us this weekend?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. It has been
much.
amazing. Yes. It has been phenomenal. I am so blessed to be able to have met you all, for you to have poured into my life personally, and then taken on the opportunity to pour into those that we have connected with. And I pray that we continue to build relationships with each other, with the Lord, and we get to know the Lord for who he is, a real relationship. That's a real relationship that we build upon a relationship with him. And then we transcend that abroad to our families, to our loved ones, and to that man who might be Mexican, Puerto Rican, or Asian.
Equal opportunity daters. Gotta be equal opportunity daters, ladies.
I love you all. This is day 2. Yes. Tomorrow we will close it out. I will share with you what the Lord has given me with regards to getting your mind right. I hope that you'll be able to join. God bless you. Love McPherson, Pastor Sean Strickland, Dr. Anita Phillips, Pastor Melva Henderson, Tasha Page Lockhart, everybody on the Bloom and Beauty side, all of you women who register. Listen, I don't have to hope that you got something. I know that you got something. But the point is, you need to build upon that. Don't just get it and keep it. You need to use it. As our motto is in this ministry, obey God and he will bless you real good.
Yes.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for this platform. It's been such an honor. It is always such an amazing conference. The organization skills, I was telling my daughter, I just have to say this, the organization skills from behind the scenes, so professionally run, like everything works like, it's one of the best run conferences that I attend. And I just want to thank you that you give me the opportunity to be on this platform.
Don't do that, ma'am, because I have you every year.
I agree. I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ditto. Tomorrow at 10:15 sharp, ladies. So have a good afternoon. Have a good evening. Love you all.
Love you. He in?
I guess we're supposed to leave.
We out? Okay.
Oh my God,
that was fun.
I love you all. I love you all
so much.
That was fun.
I love you all. You're amazing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I did.
Yes.
That was so great. We have to do
I
that
enjoyed
again.
spending my time with you all. It was just, well, you know what? We didn't even touch the sex part, y'all, but.
Yes.
I did too.
I almost did, but I was like, when you was like, open the love, I was like, open your heart, not the legs. I didn't say it.
We still got to talk about the messages. We still have to talk about the messages the church gives about it and how that can affect them once they get married, though. If everything is dirty and everything, and by the time they get over, they have sexual issues, and because they can't transform their mind into that, am I supposed to really, really enjoy this as much as I'm supposed to? So next time, that'll be another subject, y'all.
Next time. I love y'all. I'm going to message both of you on IG.
All righty.